Hello! This is my first video that I'm going to put on my YouTube channel, so I'm pretty pumped about that. And I'd like to point out that I'm making this video on Tuesday of spring break week because our school used too many snow days and nobody else has to come to school, including the students, but I have to be here, so this is what I'm doing with my spare time. Alright, let's get started. So this video is to help you guys review quadratic functions. So after watching this, my hope is that you will be able to identify the vertex, the axis of symmetry, and the zeros when given a quadratic. You should also be able to determine the domain, the range, the increasing and decreasing intervals, as well as the positive and negative intervals. So what I've done is I've drawn a quadratic for you. So the first thing that you need to be able to do is determine the vertex. The vertex is where the function turns. It's the turning point. So on this picture, it's right here. And that is the point, -1, -4 in this particular picture. So it's a coordinate, -1, -4. You can also find the vertex by looking at the table. It's where it turns. So right here you can see -4 is in the middle, and then it goes -3, -3, 0, 0, 5, 5. So that is clearly the turning point for the vertex. The second thing you need to know is the axis of symmetry. That's the line you can draw down the middle that splits the graph into two equal pieces. So if I drew this line, it's going to go through the vertex. Okay, so this is the axis of symmetry. The word axis has a big X in it, so it's an X equals line. So this is the line, X equals, and it's the X coordinate of the vertex. So it's X equals -1. The last part of the picture you want to look at are the zeros, or where it crosses the X-axis. So the X-intercepts. Sometimes they call it the roots as well. So where does it cross the X line? Right here and right here. So the zeros are at 1 and at -3. Or you could put them as points. You could put -3, 0 and 1, 0. And you can also find those in the table. If we look in the table, it's where y equals 0. So right here and right here, what are the x values? -3 and 1. Okay. Now we're going to talk about intervals. You need to be able to figure out where they're increasing, decreasing, positive and negative, and also what the domain and range are. So let's start with domain and range. The domain is the x values. What is happening in this picture with the x values? So you want to ask yourself, if I could keep going in this direction, would this line keep going and going and going? Yes. What about the other way? If I kept going in the positive direction for the x's, would that line keep going and going? And the answer is yes. So there will always be a point for every x. So that means my domain is all real numbers. You could also write that as it would keep going from -infinity to positive infinity. So if you put it into interval notation, it'd be -infinity, comma, infinity, both with the parentheses because you can't say it stops at infinity. Same thing for the range, except now we're talking about the y value, so up and down. So if I kept going and going and going this way, would the graph keep going? Yes. What if I went this way? Oh, wait a minute, no. It stops right here, the y value at -4. So this function is only going from -4 all the way up to infinity. So the range, now the point -4 is included, so that's going to be a bracket from -4 all the way up to positive infinity. All right, next let's talk about increasing, decreasing. Increasing is when the function's going up or when it has a positive slope. So if you look, this cuts it in half perfectly. It is increasing from here and on. The graph is going up. It's increasing. So where does it start increasing? You talk about the x values. It starts increasing when x is -1. So from -1, and it keeps increasing forever and ever and ever up to infinity. Now we know infinity is not included, but is -1 included? Well, if I could draw a little guy here, would he be flat or would he be going up or down? He'd be staying flat. So that point is not considered increasing or decreasing, so that's going to be a parenthesis. So now decreasing is the other side of the graph. It is decreasing from all the way up here, decreasing, decreasing, and it stops decreasing at -1. So this goes from -infinity to -1, and again, they're both going to be parentheses because they're not included. All right, the last thing you need to talk about is positive or negative. When is a function positive, or when the y values are positive? So if I look, this is all positive, this is all positive. So there's two separate spots. It's positive from -infinity to -3, and from 1 to infinity. Then the negative is the rest of it. So it is negative from -3 to 1. And again, you don't include those 2 points because they're 0. 0 is considered neither positive or negative. All right, so we've done the vertex, turning point. The axis of symmetry is that line you can draw, and it's axis with an x, so it's an x equals that line. We did the zeros, or the roots, right here, where it touches the x-axis. We did domain. Domain is at the x values. Would there be values for the y's if we kept going? Or the range, or the y's, so going this way. Increasing, when is it going up, or the slope's positive? Decreasing, when is it going down? And positive, when are the values positive, and when are they negative? All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you learned something. Thanks.